So what if I told you that the real path to $1 million has absolutely nothing to do with some brilliant idea or a lucky stock pick? Yeah, let's just forget about the billionaires and the lottery winners for a minute. We're going to focus on the surprisingly simple and, let's be honest, kind of boring path that regular people can actually follow. Because the real math behind becoming a millionaire, it might not be what you think at all.
To really get this, let's start with the story. Meet Marcus and Jaime. They're both 38 years old, they live in the same city, graduated around the same time, and get this, they made almost identical salaries when they started their first jobs back when they were 22. They literally began on the exact same starting line.
But fast forward to today, and, well, their financial worlds are miles apart. Marcus opens his investment app and sees a balance of $187,000, just quietly doing its thing in the background. Meanwhile, Jamie's staring at a credit card statement that somehow crept up to $6,800. There was no big emergency, no disaster. It was just life.
And that, right there, that's the central question of this whole explainer. How is it possible for two people to start from the exact same place and end up in such wildly different financial spots? Well, the answer is kind of buried in the data once you learn how to read it the right way.
Okay, so before we can chart a realistic path forward, we have to talk about the data itself. Because honestly, the way we talk about wealth in America is, well, it's broken. It's almost designed to make most of us feel like we're behind, and at the same time, it gives us this perfect excuse to not even try.
You've probably seen this headline everywhere, right? It's based on data from the Federal Reserve. The average American household is a millionaire. And technically, that's true. In the same way that if Bill Gates walks into a bar, everyone inside becomes a billionaire, on average. It's a number that is just deeply misleading.
The number that tells the real story, the one you need to pay attention to, is the median, $192,700. So what's that? It's the household in the exact middle. 50% of America has more, 50% has less. And unlike the average, this number can't be hijacked by a few super rich people at the top.
And this chart, wow. This shows you exactly why that gap between average and median is so huge. The top 10% of households in the US, they hold about 2/3 of all the wealth. The top 1% alone controls nearly 1/3 of it. It's just a completely different reality at the top, and that's what skews the numbers for everyone else.
Now here's where the story gets really interesting. If you look at how that median net worth grows over a lifetime, you see it climbs pretty steadily. But look at that peak, the 65 to 74 age group. It hits $410,000. And for the majority of American households, after a whole lifetime of working, that's the finish line. Not a milestone on the way to $1 million, but a ceiling they just never seem to break through.
So, with that reality check in mind, let's talk about the first major milestone. We have to talk about the first $100,000, because it's so much more than just a number. It is the point where the actual physics of building wealth begins to change. You know, the legendary investor Charlie Munger had this famous and very blunt quote about it. He said the first $100,000 is well, he used a word that rhymes with which, and that you have to get there no matter what it takes. And he said that because he knew the incredible mathematical power that it unlocks.
And here's why. Just look at how wealth starts to accelerate. Let's say you invest $10,000 a year. That first 100 grand, it takes nearly 8 years. It is a grind. It's the slowest, hardest part of the entire journey. But the next $100,000, that only takes 5 years. And the one after that, under 4. You're adding the same amount of wealth, but it happens faster and faster every single time.
See, at that $100,000 mark, something magical happens. Your money gets a job. With just a conservative 7% return, your portfolio is now making $7,000 a year all by itself. It's like you've hired a silent partner who works 24/7, never calls in sick, and never, ever asks for a raise. This is the moment the machine starts to run on its own.
So, you'd think that since the math gets easier after 100 grand, the path to $500,000 would be pretty straightforward, right? But this is where most people hit a wall. It's kind of shocking, but only about 25% of American households ever cross that $500,000 mark. So why? Why do so many people get stuck?
Well, it usually comes down to 3 really powerful forces that tend to hit you all at once, right during your peak earning years. The house payment that keeps getting bigger, the car payment that just feels normal, and this thing called the Henry Trap, which stands for high earners, not rich yet. Let's just zoom in on that car payment for a second, because it's the perfect example of how this works. Somebody signs up for a $735 a month car payment. It feels completely normal. In fact, it kind of feels like the price of admission for being a successful adult.
But here's the hidden price tag, the number nobody shows you at the dealership. If you'd invested that normal car payment instead over 30 years at a 10% return, it would have grown to over $1.6 million. You see, you didn't just buy a car, you traded it for a future of financial freedom. The real cost isn't on the sticker price. It's paid in all the wealth you never get to build.
So what about the people who manage to avoid these traps, the ones who actually make it to that $1 million mark? Well, the data paints a picture that is the complete opposite of what most of us have in our heads. The real path, it's slow, it's steady, and honestly, it's a little boring.
Get this, a massive study of over 10,000 millionaires found that 79% of them got zero inheritance, not a dime. A third of them never even earned a six-figure salary in a single year. They typically reached $1 million at age 49, after 28 years of just consistently investing. No market timing, no hot stock tips, just disciplined, relentless consistency.
And this slide, right here, this shows you the most powerful force in all of finance: time. If you want to hit $1 million by age 65, a 22-year-old only needs to invest about $117 a month. But wait until you're 30, that number more than doubles. Wait until you're 40, it's over $750 a month. The destination is the same, but the price of the ticket gets way more expensive the longer you wait to buy it.
Let me put it another way, because this is just wild. Every single dollar you invest at age 22 is projected to become $88 by the time you're 65. But if you wait until you're 50 to invest that same dollar, it only turns into $470. When you put it off, you're not just losing time, you are literally trading massive future wealth for just a tiny fraction of what it could have been.
So, okay, let's bring all this together. The path is actually pretty clear. The math is kind of unforgiving, and the timeline, well, the timeline is the only real thing you have any control over.
And we have to be honest here. This is structurally harder than it used to be. Housing costs are way higher relative to income. College tuition is through the roof. The hill you have to climb is steeper now, and that's not an excuse, it's just a fact of life we have to deal with. Which brings us back to our two stories. Marcus, just by starting early and sticking with it, is on track to hit $1 million around age 58. He wasn't some kind of genius, he just didn't stop. Now Jaime, he can still do it, but his journey is just so much harder now. He has to save more with less time. The cost of his delay is real, and it's steep.
And really, that brings us to the final question, the one that's just for you. The math isn't a secret anymore. You've seen the timeline laid out right in front of you. The only thing left, the only variable, is action. So, when are you going to start?